before diving right in, what questions, suggestions, hypotheses, or corners would we like to round off? Everyone is aware as to where we last left the shelter. Alright, lovely silence. Everyone is well aware as to where these heroes of our hearts and the protagonists of our play actually were when we last left. And there aren't any real questions standing out at this moment. So as we begin, I'd like to extend my thanks once again and always for your time, your effort, and your energies. Thank you, and thank you. All right, so the mountains come to Muhammad. The chaos is very, very real and internalized in a lot of places. When we last left our coterie, Hesha had found and made aware that Donnell's phone is nowhere to be found. In it, of course, the information of the past, tying them to several individuals with mystery surrounding them, to say the least. If anyone bothered to look into their happenstance, their states of being, it would raise questions that not many could logically answer, and fewer still would actually answer, considering what the outcome would be. Lucio reconnected once again with his childhood friend and now Sergeant Elijah Kamal. Lolly realizes that there is a greater conspiracy of butterflies. Yes, the butterfly effect is in full motion. One small thing can change everything, yet there's so many confluences of small things. Knowing which small thing to affect to have the greatest result is anyone's guess. And with so many variable and variety present, it literally is a mystery and a riddle, wrapped in a cone, tossed into the bottom of Lake Michigan, and coated in the disposed body parts going back several centuries. And most importantly, and not leastly, there is Miriam. She has become the center of the oncoming storm and tornado. She is in presence and possession of the phone, the safe line to the would-be lawyer and protector currently of the shelter. And much like the devil, once you speak of him, he shall appear. So as we left our last episode, as the detectives fled, having a moment, as Sergeant Kamal went back to his job, protecting the entirety of the neighborhood, not just shelter. Several stereotypical black cars arrived. Stepping out of them is a, for modern day, short individual, just below average height, slightly balding, a bulk to him despite his height that most would assume would be simple, unaffected girth, which was in truth, due to being a product of his time, a thin layer of fat over a mountain of muscle. His suit, a few years out of common style, is not tight. The ankles aren't showing. It is not fitted with a modern cut. It is a classic European, Italian styled suit, tailored but not skinny jeans inspired. The shoulder pads are there and in far more padding than is the usual cut. The waist is high and tight, and the pants long and loose. The shoes polished, and the glasses adorning his face, much like that of Clark Kent, as he and several guards make their way in. One of the guards, one of the clear body men protecting Mr. Gabriel, is a familiar face. A few of the locals look towards him and then look away, trying to suss out what exactly is going on. Especially when Mr. Gabriel carries such an air of power. So, with our scene set and our imaginations in full bloom, I'd like to welcome you to the official Soup City Sins Season 18 Epilogue. Waiting for who you want to become. Beginning in anti-alphabetical, realizing that the lawyer has arrived, realizing that the person that Miriam had reached out to had arrived. Where does that leave Lolly?
Confused.
And Miriam, watching this show of power as it arrives.
Presumably she recognizes this gentleman.
In several ways that doesn't make her feel any way, shape, fashion, or form at ease, at peace, or protected. The first experience with the eye of the storm that is the shelter, the building, the energies flowing through it, the chaos that is attracted to that energy and power. Miriam was in the building, waiting for the others, and time disappeared for her. She was no longer in the present. She watched as the walls changed, as the layout of the floor changed around her, and she was across the desk from Mr. Gabriel, or someone who looks remarkably like him, though he was a little bit more vibrant. There wasn't the sense of age about him that she now feels, but you could swear that you shook that man's hand somewhere about 90 to 100 years ago in this building. Though you weren't you were there, and you realized that it was because you were in the shelter. So seeing that person who was a product of their time walking through the shelter doors is being smacked with that first sense of you're not sure when dealing with the shelter, the coterie, the building, and all that pertains to it.
So, Miriam will arch an eyebrow and then compose herself and walk over to a respectful distance. Mr. Gabriel, so nice to see you again. Miss Green is this way. And she will gesture towards Hestia.
Which is funny overall, because Lolly was there, but it's easy to forget Lolly. She goes quiet, and as big and bright of a persona and personality that she is, she begins drifting from the conscious thought. She begins drifting from visual range. It's as if she has a social camouflage that automatically engages if you stop thinking about her, if you stop looking at her. Now, in the grand scheme of things, seeing Gabriel is its own mental conundrum. But seeing Lucio's good cousin and friend Arsenio in his employ is another. Silent, bulky, his large, ever-protective self, protecting someone who isn't the coterie seems curious, to say the least. some would say outright wrong. And in many ways, it is exactly that. It's like seeing your father or your uncle or your mom even with a different family and claiming them as her own. So as you all arrive at the office, Donnell having left for his round, Hestia having taken a moment to gather themselves, do you simply enter or do you once again knock?
This time she'll just enter because the police are gone.
So with Hestia having taken that moment, would she still be in the midst of that moment as the door swings open, or would she be in the midst of composing herself to be about her rounds and her task?
She's already had her moment, and now she's ready to go back to business.
What are you doing?
So keys in hand and rising to leave the office, in walks Miriam and Mr. Gabriel and Arsenio and 3 other guards equally as large and equally as dark of hair. Arsenio is the only one with a beard and mustache. The others are clean shaven and the sort of faces that have been punched repeatedly to the point where it would probably hurt the person that punched them at this point. Their bulk and strength clearly being from experience and not just, as the saying goes, all look and no book.
Having thought she was pulled together, seeing Arsenio undoes all of that. She sits hard and just kind of stares at him.
She's staring at Arsenio. That being the case, would you be so kind as to go ahead and roll your wits plus subterfuge? DC 3. And while that roll is happening, all but forgotten has slipped away. Does Lolly slip into someone's pocket and follow along with the caravan towards the office, or does she remain as she is, isolated in thought, understanding that they are under all due pressure and attack from others?
I assume she has no idea who this guy is, other than his show of power.
Well, how long has Lolly been in and around the city by this point? Has she grown up here?
She didn't grow up here, but she was embraced here.
Okay.
So let me check. So, like, 11 years.
Okay. So she may have gotten into the local culture, the local word of mouth history, and some of the more famous members of Chicago. Harold Washington, Jane Byrne, the Dailies, the mafiosos and criminals that of note. So, intelligence and either academics or streetwise.
I don't remember what Hess's hunger was at, and it would take me so long to scroll backwards.
Give me one quick second here. The last time with Hestia is showing her hunger at 1. All right, so let's start with Lolly, then we'll work back to Hess, because Lolly is a relatively, as far as things are concerned, a newness to the city. 10 years in Chicago, and you still might not have had the opportunity of trying the only good Harold's restaurant in the city. 10 years in the city, and you may not have had the opportunity to really try a good slice of Italian fiesta. You know that the squares make it taste a little bit better. 10 years in the city, and Alali may not have quite figured out the difference between north and south. And there is one more than socioeconomically. The tale of Chicago is one of absorption. Chicago started as a little bird that spread and absorbed all of the other cities, towns, and villages in its path. So north and south, they are literally different cities within this one. What everyone else and where everywhere else would consider a neighborhood in Chicago is its own particular fiefdom. There is its own flavor, feel, culture, and sub-history of the city as a whole. And it's one of the differences that Chicagoans take for granted. One of the differences that they don't even notice anymore. Even as the city is, and the nation as a whole has gone near international in where and how they operate, there is still that very local tribalism of knowing what side of the city you're on and the history therein. Even if it's all bullshit, even if it's all rumor and gossip and it's just word of mouth, there is still that pride in being able to say, man, I'm from the south side. Or I grew up in Irving Park. Or I grew up in Rogers Park. There is a pride in that ownership, that sense of identity. But even if Lolly had been here only a fraction of the time, she would have heard about the St. Valentine's Day Massacre. She would have heard and seen several films on who that man looks like. Gabriel does not give her the air of someone born in this time. There's a wariness and the wildness, a feralness beneath that veneer of calm. There is a do what it takes essence about that man, and you are sure as you are standing here that that man is either a cosplayer or he very well is Alphonse. And speaking of such a thing, as Hestia stares at Arsenio and that dark swarthy muscle, all of that dark charm that is somehow magnified in him still being alive and thriving and willing and able, and she knows what those rough hands feel like. She knows how protective that criminal is. She knows how dangerous he could be. She also knows that despite everything, and it may just be the blood, it may just be the vitae, she would be willing to bet several lifetimes that he actually cares for Lucio and Lucio's sisters and the shelter. And her thinking of that, she watches as the hurt on his face is apparent, yet beneath it all, he winks and smiles when no one's paying attention to him except for Hestia. She seriously sees it clear as day. It was a purposeful thing. It was not an incidental grimace. It was not a rapid blink. No, it was a purposeful wink. Full out grin flashed quick enough that it would seem to be a trick of the imagination. Did she really see it? Was it really there? But no, she knows for a fact it was. Mr. Gabriel pauses, looking around the office. This place ain't really changed at all. I gotta say, I'm not really a fan of the decor. I thought you all were going to upgrade things. And then he looks at Miriam. And did Lolly follow to the office?
Yeah, she'll probably make herself unseen, but she will follow.
So he looks around the office for a second. That's it? We're good? This is safe?
The thing is, I would take you further in, but we had a catastrophe of sorts earlier this evening.
No, you know. You guys are good at that sort of thing. And everybody here dialed in. We're all good.
Yeah.
It was, I would say it was more of an incursion of spies, rats, it were.
Rats.
Yeah, rats. We don't
Girl.
like rats. You. And he taps Arsenio in the back of his hand. Lightly enough that you know there's no impact behind it, but the idea of it, Arsenio being touched so casually by someone who isn't you, Arsenio being treated as if he is in fact just a lackey. You'll take Gus here and do a perimeter check. Close the door on your way out. Arsenio just nods, and you can hear as he grabs the other guy literally by his arm, pulling him with him and heading out the door. Not even looking over his shoulder, sure that the situation is what the situation is. And as he pulls the door closed behind him, leaving you, Mr. Gabriel and his two guards, Mr. Gabriel undoes the one button to the right of his suit coat, opens it just his tie, pulls at his sleeves, and steps further into the room. Once he does, he takes off his glasses and sits them on the desk, taking a seat. The guards remaining literally where they were, as if they were planted there. So, you all called. I forget exactly what you said, but you said it was an emergency and you needed to reach out. And you used one of the many secure phones and means of communication that I placed around here to make sure that I could be of assistance to you so that you all would not make a bigger mess. What exactly is going on? I saw the two cops out front.
Miriam will settle in and lean on the desk like the young lady from her vision so long ago, and just gesture at Hess.
It hurts when you do that.
One of our staff members got murdered. And they have pictures of him in the alleyway where the body was found. And now they are probably going to try to pin it on somebody here. Probably me. And they took another staff member's phone while they were in here having hysterics. That staff member has every other member of staff that has or has ever been here while they were working here's phone number.
So that seems really easy, huh? The best thing to do is put this other staff member up for like a lamb for the slaughter. Let them go after him. They have his number. They have his phone. And this other staff member that's murdered and that's being pointed at you, they got any proof? They got any pictures? Were you even there? Or was this one of the special disappearances that you all so like to do?
It takes a minute to think about how exactly to word this. I don't know all of what they have pictures of. They showed me some of the pictures when they were here, and the pictures they showed me were his body when they found it. I don't know what other pictures they have. The problem is that I do have a good bit to do with what happened to him.
Good, so it's easy. It's harder to hide a lie and to cover it up if it ain't true. It's easier to cover up the truth and make it disappear. People are more willing to believe the worst than they are the best. So, you grab a couple of these homeless sods you got running around, some of the worst ones you got. There's always a few bad apples in the bunch, the reason why the whole mess is fucking ruined. Anyway, So you grab 2, 3 kids, mothers, single women, take their belongings, stash them all over this, the guy with the phone, the girl with the phone, stash them all over their place. They don't stay here, do they?
No.
Excellent. So you take these little bits of evidence, maybe a finger or ear or two, and you make them disappear in a nice bloody mess. You put them here, put them there, make sure that their bodies are found. Where this other employee, where was they found?
She gives him the alleyway where this all happened.
So you're not just fucking up your life, you're fucking up Wanika's life too. Nice. 2 birds, 1 stone. Always the best way to go.
It's not like I intended any of this. And the reason I can't pin it on the other staff member is because, 1, he just lost his father.
Everybody loses something.
He was almost my son.
Well, you know what they say about close. Horseshoes, hand grenades, and all that. But the other thing that always comes close to is failure if you're not willing to grab success. What you're asking for is not the easy way out. You don't want to do the work. You don't want to put somebody else's head on the chopping block. You want the police to disappear. That's going to fucking cost you. Because it's not just something you can snap your fingers at. One of the many rules is not having your hands on the police. Everyone always thought that it was loading being loading, that he can have his friends and his ties there. No, it's not just that. For years, there's been a particular individual who has had family members, friends, associates, ghouls, and retainers as part of the police. And part of the agreement that is in place above the agreement of the prince and the city is on the line. So you got to go through this guy that no one is supposed to know exists. In the way that he exists and utilizes assistance with the police.
Actually, I was not planning on putting my head on the chopping block. We had a scapegoat. We had one we were attempting to put this on, but then all hell broke loose when the rats were found and caused the fucking collapse in the handgun itself.
So you got a plan. What's your plan? How are you going to protect yourself, this place, and get this other employee, not the one that they have the phone of, as your scapegoat? Where do they stay? What do they know? What information can you plant on them? You're going to have to plant more on them now because they don't have their actual phone. The phone is important because it has everybody's contact information. I'm taking including the murdered whoever that was.
His name is Sebastian.
What, you got a prayer card? Do you want me to kiss that too?
I understand that you prefer that I don't get attached to things and people. He was a member of my staff.
Was he an earner? Was he loyal? Did he protect your secrets? Is there some reason why you're unwilling to do the easiest thing? Then you want to take the hard way and create more mysteries and more questions.
She looks at Miriam like, please help me get him to understand what Sebastian meant.
He was the type who would run towards danger if someone was in trouble. He would care for the people here as though they were his own family.
Okay, that explains why he is a loss. But there's other one. The one that screwed up and let your information get out there. Why aren't you tying this up with a bow? Why do you want to go this other way?
They have a special relationship.
As long as it's not something so foolish or sentimentality like this other employee that fucked up and put your information out there, it's actually family. I had to kill my own brother, so that doesn't really matter to me. It shouldn't matter to you either. You can't be betrayed by anybody except for those that you put your trust in. You can't be betrayed by your enemies. You can only be betrayed by family and friends. Now, just for my edification, you want to take the hard way, fine. So why'd you call me?
I had her call you when the cops were still here, hoping that there was some sort of inherent threat of calling the lawyer to get them to stop digging. But apparently, the older one, there's something up with him. He knows too much. He's been around too many times when bad things have happened here and in this neighborhood. I think he might belong to somebody.
So he's somebody's vampire slave. Good. He's somebody's ghoul, you might think, or retainer, something like that. So he's owned.
Possibly, yes.
No, that makes it easy. If he's owned, find out who he's owned by, talk to them, get them to make him back up, get them to make him be incompetent and not put this on your plate.
It's weird because as she's thinking about it and he keeps saying it would be easier to pin this on Darnell, that's the absolute last thing she wants to do, but then there's that very small voice inside of her going, he does know far too much. It's getting harder to keep in line. And little things are starting to pop up in her head that's making it harder for her to keep saying, no, not him. So as she's looking at him, rubbing her temples, the thing is, the other staff member, one is new, I'm not attached to her. Two, she has a record and is running from the cops anyway. 3, she seemed a little too interested in what she thought the dead staff member might have run off to do. It would be easier to point the finger at her. Reasonable doubt. Even though it wasn't her phone that was stolen.
Nothing reasonable about doubt. And then he pauses because he's sure he's heard something that he couldn't have heard. The inhalation of breath began saying something. And he sits up a little bit in the chair, looking left and right.
She was afraid. It's not her MO. You can burn one match or you can burn the whole book.
Now, when Lolly speaks, is she speaking above a stage whisper?
Yep. She's reviewing herself.
The guard that is closest to her left already has a gun in his hand. The guard that is closer to Capone and Miriam with Heshie across the desk, moves so that his body is between where Lolly appears and Mr. Gabriel.
She will look at the guy with the gun blankly, almost through him 1,000-yard stare sort of thing, and say, if I wanted to do something, I would have.
And relax, it's just a small thing, and while they can be dangerous, if she's being honest, she would have made the move. Everybody will just ease down. Why don't you come on over here and actually join the conversation? This one that you're saying she was scared, that could make a useful leverage. We can do a 2 for 1. Make it easy for them to think that the jackass that screwed you all with the information out there in public was somehow responsible. I'm taking it that he has her information as well, right?
Yes.
Okay, so there you go. Frame him, leave him innocent, and it's clear that they have an inclination that it might have been a woman, about your height, about your size, but that's hard to tell from any sort of distance. Taking it nobody was there to actually see you. Right.
Out of character, would she know that? Or no?
If anybody was present to see her, how would she have responded? What would she have done? As far as she's 100% aware, there was no one there. Didn't mean anybody upstairs in the condo windows or one of the apartment windows near her hand, or someone down the beach could not have potentially saw her entering or exiting the alley, or maybe even watch as she left Sebastian there. But no one was physically present in that alley. No one was physically present there that she's aware of.
Not what I'm aware of.
So there's the answer. Somebody knows or thinks that it might have been a woman about your size, your height, from distance. They weren't there, otherwise you would have took care of them, right? Hell, it could have been this one. He points to Miriam. So, plant some evidence that this jackass that got your information out there. Point the finger toward this one that already got the record. She being a she. And then put all the evidence in this she's presence in their home, the apartment, the condo, whatever they stay. Probably got a nice little cold water flat down on Thorndale. Probably closer than you think. That way, he gets a little slap on the wrist. Don't screw up no more, otherwise I won't be able to save you. And she goes down. 2 birds and 1 big stone. Which I never understood the point of that phrase, because it's surprisingly easy that if you have a big enough stone to get more than 2 birds at once. You just gotta be a little quick.
Complicated math.
Well, you got a better idea, or you want to call in the super favor? You want to put your neck on the line for a boon to somebody who's not supposed to even exist?
Who, me?
You're responsible for this this crusty crab that's the cause of all of this?
I didn't kill anybody.
Everyone says that, but you couldn't be one of us and not have killed nobody.
I didn't kill anybody recently.
Now, there you go. That I believe. Not really. I don't believe that at all, but I'll take your word for it. Because after all, what is recent to someone who can... Yeah, right. So what is your decision, Cupcake? What are we going to do? You want to do the hard way? The good old-fashioned salt to the earth way? Or you want to do the easy way, which is going to cost you a lot of favors? Then we can make this go away like yesterday's news.
She's sitting there. Okay. Hold on. Let me look at her sheet really quick for a second. Because this is a hard decision. This is even implicating Donnell at all, knowing she's the one to do it. Oh, that's gonna hurt. Yeah. She looks at Mr. Gabriel and goes, I don't see how I have any other choice but to set him and her up. I can't lose this place and I can't go down for it. And I can't owe anybody anything right now because I don't have a lot left to go owing anybody anything. So, I guess I gotta figure out how to pull this off.
The moment you say that, a devilish grin sits on his lips, almost as if each syllable increased its vibrancy. First something small and thin as a poorly drawn line from a very sharp pencil. Then as each word tumbled from your lips, it grew brighter and more accepting. I can't believe that Karen chose right after taking so long to actually make that decision. You will do her absolutely 100% well. You, Tremere, are willing to make it by any means necessary, taking all the ways that anybody can hold a bit of anything over your head. That's a good thing. After all, if they weren't such idiots and trusted you, they wouldn't be in the position they're in. I know a couple of guys who know a couple of guys, so let me know what you need. And he looks towards Miriam. You know where the phone is, you have access to it. You'll give me a call on her behalf when you guys have your plan and motions in action. Just know that it typically takes 48 hours for them to come up with their theory and a process to which they are ready to act and move before the judge. And once they move before the judge, your arrest comes. And I don't know about you, but being behind bars is the worst moments of your life. It's even worse if you're dead. And the moment that he began speaking, Lolly watches as the floor in various places opens up. Little rivulets and rivers of lava flowing up and out and rolling across the floor. From the way that the floor is cracking and moving apart, making room for the lava to ease up and out of the nether realm, you are sure where the epicenter is. You're even sure when it started. It wasn't when Mr. Gabriel was speaking, but just a few seconds before. And unlike other most molten lava, this lava is heat incarnate, yet it manages to pull all the light into itself. So it's not a bright white or a phosphorus blue or, red or an orange. No, this is black, oozing, tar-like lava, bubbling up, bloop, 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 and moving across the floor. Everywhere that it touches, small rivers of blood begin to flow until it reaches the door. And then, as no one else is being affected by this lava, no one's being melted by this lava, you believe that this is a moment soon to come, or something in the offing. And as the lava reaches the door, burning it away, in walks that same monstrous Nosferatu that you saw earlier, moving between words and glances, able to walk across all of this hot, heated filth directly to Hestia. And being as he's not affected like anyone else, there's a very good chance that he actually is in fact there. And as she looks towards Mr. Gabriel as he's speaking, there's Nosferatu stands behind her, drawing and wickedly sharpened machete. It's the sort of thing that should have been retired half a decade ago, but still is in constant daily use. Its edge sharp enough to slice through paper, but jagged enough that it would tear muscle and flesh. And he holds it in an extended high grip. Somehow has been modified so that he can put two hands on it, and he sets up his strike like he's attempting to make a home run across the football field. And he begins swinging towards Hesja's head, the time seeming to draw slower and slower as he moves faster and faster towards decapitating her. Well, Mr. Gabriel says, you do your maker really proud. I wish I could say the same, but we are different. We come from separate cloths, and good to know that at least some of the wherewithal to do what's necessary still dwindled down to you.
Lolly will back up and push things out of her way to get in the corner or perch on a chair and bite her lip, rub at her eyes.
So Miriam, Hesja, as Lolly goes making a mess, books are falling. The last few pictures you all just moved into the office and not into the space behind it, into the actual shelter goes falling towards the floor. One of the frames cracks. Some of the books fly open, and the guards are watching her as if she has a second head growing on her neck, as she's acting as if she is high. Their approximation of fear is very, very much biased and jaded, but for them, this is something that only a druggie would do. For anyone with any sort of human understanding, is definitively a fear response.
Miriam will arch a brow and turn her head to look at Lolly, just watching her for a moment.
Hess, in seeing her start to stumble back, is going to lean forward and use her body weight to push her rolling chair back hard in the intent to go around the desk and go see what's wrong with Lolly.
It's here. It was here. I saw it. The blood. It's coming for him and for you. It was here. I saw it.
The funny thing about seeing things and knowing what's in the offing, as Hesja pushes back from her chair and moves around the corner of the desk, the machete just misses her. A second longer, and you are sure you would have watched Hesja's head tumble from her shoulders. But as she makes her way towards you, in an act of humanity, in an act of seeking to protect or assuage someone else's harm, it saved her from losing her head. And as she crosses towards you and you say that monstrous, clearly invisible, much like you can do, kindred moves towards the corner and begins sliding back across around everyone else and out.
With her being seemingly so focused and mentioning the Nosferatu again, Hess is definitely going to go into sensiencing, because this has happened too many times tonight.
Which means we can just go ahead and roll your composure plus auspics. Because even being inured and accustomed to the many spirits, souls, specters, and such accumulating in and around the shelter, the vibrancy of the truly dead life that exists in a very strange ecosystem here at the shelter is never something that's easily swallowed, never something easily dived into, especially in the midst of personal emotional turmoil, still swimming and seething beneath the surface. And as Hestia's eyes go dead right in front of you, Lolly, as it looks as if all that is Hestia dies, even though her body continues moving, and she begins taking in the space around you. You realize there are states of death. There are places and steps along the way that differentiate the many levels of dead things. And watching Hestia's eyes die in front of your face is a difficult thing. Miriam, did you close on Lolly as well, or were you trying to keep your space? Just in case.
I was keeping my space back, yes.
Okay. So you don't watch the manifestation of what Since the Unseen looks like. You don't see Hestia's eyes dying. You've seen it in Lucio's version of it several times that you become almost accustomed to watching the darkness of his soul manifest in his eyes. Watching Hestia pierce the veil is familiar and similar to that, but so much worse. It is the nature of the beast. And as Hestia peers into the world around them, she realizes that this space, this place is teeming, even more so than usual. It's like you're standing in Grand Central Station. On your left, the Spectre Express out to Weehawken, and on your right, the Spirit Train uptown, and then on your left, and there's ghosts and specters and spirits and all manner of being moving in and moving out of the space. Their energy defining what they are and their level of esteem and prestige in the lands of the dead. Hestia also sees that same poor, waifish, Serbian, Russian, Polish, you're not sure, somewhere Slavic, somewhere East Europe, maybe Western Asian individual. The same poor clothing, the same clear signs of physical manual labor all about them. And when Hestia pierces the veil, they attempt easing from view. Unlike the many other souls moving in and moving out, they are here in this space. It's clear that they're not traveling to some distant destination. They're not using this as a way station. They're not moving on with their existence. They were here and they are fixated on you all. Everything happening in this office.
So, wait, that's not the Nosferatu, that's a different spirit.
There's no Nosferatu.
Oh, so as soon as she sees that, she's like, oh, shit, get them. They're here. Like, she was serious. And tries to grab, like go as fast as she can, like grab at, for them to pull them back into the room.
Moving forward to touch what's not there. It is what's your closest proximity to the trope and gossip and rumor mongering as to what being a Malkavian is like. For every person that sees the idea of the clan as just mad, there are those who, but they used to be visionary kings like the Cassandra. They were cursed with knowledge, blah, 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 blah. No, you know what you know. You know that it's not, but it is, and it's Nothing you can put your fingers on, nothing you can touch, but you know what you know, no matter how unreal it might seem. And the moment you go to act on it, it is clear that those who are watching you see you as mad or beyond redemption, or perhaps far worse, something that's contagious to them. Miriam, watching Hesha dive after nothing, and her, hey, it's here. Well, is there anything that's going on in your mind? Because it's clear that Mr. Gabriel is barely containing a guffaw or an outright laugh. Maybe even a chortle thrown in because he's so caught off guard.
Miriam is just going to lean back a little bit and cross her arms and is like, huh, I'm glad I'm not the only one that sees things.
I am never one to knock anybody else's kink. It's not what I do. But this is unbecoming. And just as this is unbecoming, I will unbecome. I'll leave you all. You figure it out. Call me. Keep your nose as clean as you can. And he begins moving his way toward the door. The guard immediately opens it for him.
As he's leaving, Miriam will say, Mr. Gabriel, I do agree. The Art Deco decor was much nicer.
I see you, kid. I got my eye on you. And they exit, leaving the three of you alone with what it is that you've seen and what it is that you've made know and what it is that you have not felt.
Miriam will push herself up from the desk. All right, so what was it that we were singing?
Tess looks truly perplexed because she's normally really good at telling the difference between spirits and things that are actually there. So the fact that she detected something and expected it to be there and apparently it's not, it's pissing her off.
It's not normal. It's not normal. Be normal, Ollie. You don't see things.
Just looks at Miriam, I swear, it was there. I've seen it before. Nosferatu, and Lolly keeps saying that she's seen it, and that was who sent the rats, and it makes sense that was who sent the rats. But tell me why, when I went to grab it just now, it's not there. So I don't know how it's doing it, but it's projecting itself into the fucking haven and making it look like I'm losing my mind, and I am not. If there's anything I know, my brain is like a steel trap, and there's no way I'm losing it.
It tried to take your head.
So like, what?
It almost did.
See what I mean? Like, if a fucking spirit with a fucking machete can attack me and I can't fight it back, what the fuck am I supposed to do? We have enough problems. I gotta fucking set up. Oh no. Oh god.
Aren't there... When you've gone through to protect things, is that one of the things you can protect against?
If it was a ghoul, maybe. If it was... if it was a corporeal kindred, probably. But I don't know what to do with those that are in between. Maybe it's a spirit of Nosferatu, but I don't remember killing any Nosferatu.
Could you ask our new boss?
Which one?
The one with the library. Or was the museum? It was a
The thing with that is, if I ask him for anything, I have to be willing to give something. He is not going to give me any more freebies. Basically, that's what he said. So I have to show and prove before he will even spend an ounce of effort towards me or anybody that I give a fuck about. But still, while that's going on, the most pressing thing is definitely this fucking cops breathing down my neck thing. Do you think he picked the wrong thing? Do you think I should have saved the boon and, like, let him make the cops disappear? Would that have been the better choice?
I don't think you should burn Selma.
There is really no better choice here. They're all
Didn't do anything.
mortals.
But they're no different than, well, they are, but they're no different than us. They're still people.
So, what would you have me do? Like, seriously, I don't know. I'm willing to take almost any suggestion at this point. It does not involve me walking into the police station and putting my hands out saying, hey, sure, arrest me. Let's go.
Didn't you say that Vivi has contacts that way?
Vivi's former bosses, the people that she worked for, want kindred to not exist. I don't know if we should go in that direction.
Maybe there's someone more deserving.
Well, the funny thing is Lolly's trying to make tails of heads and arms of tails. The lava didn't start, and Nosferatu didn't attempt to behead Hestia until she willingly went along with framing someone at the shelter. Whether it was Donnell or Selma, you forget which one, or whether it was both, the apocalypse started when that decision was spoken aloud.
Okay, all right, yeah. It's the wrong path. It's not worth it. There's another answer.
Like rubbing her temples. Man, she thinks I'm a mixed fucking. I think I got it. I think I figured it out. I don't know how we're going to do it, but I think I figured it out. That other fucking shelter that has been attempting to take us down from the beginning, since they moved here, maybe we can figure out a way to pin it on them, because it would make sense as to why they were trying to take us down so that they could take over and be the only shelter here. So if we can find a way to pin it on them, maybe that'll get rid of them and get rid of our problem at the same time. I just don't know how the fuck I'm gonna get close enough to fucking pin things on them, but still, I think that's a great idea, because you said we can't pin anybody here, so that would be good. And not point here, point at the other shelter, so that it makes it look like they're trying to set us up.
Here,
So you
ponder that for a moment.
killed him?
And all of what was going on, that just like shocks her to stillness. And she looks at Molly and just kind of holds her stomach and looks at them both. It was an accident.
Yeah, I know it happens, but two wrongs and all that.
I couldn't stand the thought of taking him down to the basement and making him disappear. I needed him to be found so that it would be okay. And now I've caused all of this problem because I couldn't detach myself and just make him disappear.
That's fair, I get it, but if you open the store, where does it end? Are you willing to sell more of yourself to keep it hidden? Is that going to be less than paying a favor in the long run? Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. It's not for me to say.
You know what's going to happen if I call him in and ask for that favor. They are going to make those cops disappear. For good. Make it go away, that's what he said.
The stone has been cast into the river. There's no stopping the ripples. But you can put your hand in and direct them. I'm just trying to help. I don't have the answer. Both doors suck. But that's how it always is.
Miriam will go around desk and rummage and grab a legal pad and a pen and hand them over to Hestia. Write the facts.
Do I do that another 2 times, or is that the answer?
That's it. And the moment that Miriam gives you the pad, the innumerable ways that you have stepped across the lines of your convictions and the very foundational of the ethics of the entirety of the world hit you like a ton of bricks. You might as well have been the floor that Lucio drove those rats through. All of it comes down on you. You see the pictures as if they are there in front of you now. Because of your actions, he can't even get respect. Dead. Because of your actions, you were willing to potentially sacrifice one of the last few individuals outside of Celia that mattered to you. And while Selma may be cantankerous, the effects she's already having in just under 4 days of working, the triage, you can find everything. The front desk, you know where everything is. Everything is falling into a neat and ordered space. If given the opportunity, she can find ways to streamline and help. And you're willing to throw the entirety of her life away. You're willing to throw the entirety of Sebastian away for your sense of pride. How dare anyone try to put you into debt? You bow to no one, including your own scruples. And all of that weight comes settling down over you. The reality of it. Sebastian died, yes, but you don't have to send more lives already broken through experiences down the drain with him. And for once, your beast's voice aren't the intrusive thoughts that urge you towards violence against the world. No, they're the intrusive thoughts that hold the brightest light to your actions. Sans justifications, but it's an acceptable loss. In the grand scheme of things, you somehow in the last few moments moved from better 100 villains go free than one innocent man suffer to, well, it's just one innocent man. Come on, it's better that those 100 monsters stay locked up, no matter how many crimes, no matter how many times that innocent man is broken. Screw that guy. And you're not sure when it happened. Not really. You start new when the slide began, but here you are. And you hope that this is rock bottom, because if there is far more to go, there is no way that the entirety of this, the coterie, and yourself will not end up as servants of Castiglione in his version of hell.
As she attempts to start writing, and everything hits her cheeks are stained with like they finished tears, and they're just pouring down her face and hitting the legal pad, soaking it and she can't make her fingers move. And looks up at the both of them. I can't do it. I can't. Fall for my fears. I'm going to have to pretty much farm my life out to Mr. Gabriel, but I can't put either of them up for this. We have to make the cops disappear.
There's never only two choices.
Speaking of only two choices, having walked Elijah out, watching the cars pull up and pull in, that cadre of clearly tough guys move in, you know that Hestia is safe inside of the shelter. You know that Miriam is there. You know that Amalia is there. You remember Daniel was there. He may be leaving soon, but you know that they're safe inside. So you bother walking to Elijah's car, and he was polite enough and tactful enough and been in the neighborhood long enough that he parked just around the corner. You walk with him to his car, you shoot the shit, and just as you're turning back, you said your goodbyes, everyone's on their way, and take a moment to sigh and take in the insanity that has been circling around the shelter for longer than you have been conscious of it being there. And of being honest with yourself right in this moment, Lucia, this is about as good as it gets. You all have gone from the underdogs, the bottom of the barrel. You all were a coterie of kindred existing in a space that no one appreciated. It was everyone's trough. It was where the pigs were fed. It was basically all of the garbage goes there. All of the cast off individuals from around the city, all of those that are new to the city, people without hope, people without, and somehow you managed to turn their lives around and vicariously yours. You all went from relative laughingstocks to being one of the few coteries with actual accepted and ratified domain. You all went from, in your case especially, fresh murder victims to near captains of your industry. Your names carry weight. It carries a lot of dirt, but it also carries weight. You all are dangerous. You may be clumsy and you may be, bulls in a china shop, but you all are dangerous. If you put your minds to it and your efforts behind it, most people know that you all could end the existence of Ancilla, elders, other neonates. You all are definitive game changers. It's about as good as it has ever been. You are unburdened by service to the entirety of the city. You have an opportunity in front of you all to build whatever you can from what you have. You have clearly defined, delineated targets, and there's a lot of places to go, and most of them are up. An applied application of your skills and talents towards a focused end, there's very little stopping you. Look what you've all done, running fire to fire, running to catch up, trying to figure things out after they've happened. And as you walk back towards the shelter, you see the cars beginning to leave. And as the driver of one, the central car, the central guard, passes you, your mouth falls open as you see Arsenio in the shotgun seat. He's the passenger, the bodyguard responsible for keeping whoever's in the back of that vehicle safe at all and every cost. And it drives on blithely into the night. And it takes you a second or 15, probably closer to 30, to figure out how you feel about that. You are sure that that is Arsenio. While there's no immediate sense of him, normally, well, months ago, you could think about him and you'd feel what he was experiencing in the light, with the lightest of touch. You knew what state of mind he was in if you bothered to stare at him for longer than 3 seconds. And he intuited what you needed or wanted. He made sure what mattered to you mattered to him, and he would protect you with all that he had, all that you'd given him through the gift of Vitae. That feeling, of course, is gone, but you still know him like you know no one else outside of your actual direct nuclear family.
So I'm assuming the car is already gone. There's no chance of me trying to flag him down.
No.
That stings a little. Just a wee bit. Just like a, a bee sting kind of sting.
Good thing you're not allergic. There's more to come.
I don't like the sound of that. Not at all. Lucio is... Elijah's not here, right?
No, he got in his car. He's left. The detectives
Lucio
are finally finished with their argument and they're leaving.
Lucio's gonna try and call Arsenio. As bad of an idea as that is, and knowing how terrible his phone works around him, he's gonna try anyway.
Well, you know what they say, nothing beats a failure but a try. And so he's going to try. He's going to give it his all. He's going to exert that effort. Your Bane is 2, correct?
Correct.
Excellent. Would you be so kind as to go ahead and roll your composure and technology? Your DC is 3.
Was my number 2. Goodbye, phone.
There's the theory of yin and yang could be approximated to there's some of everything and some of everything else. There's some darkness in the light and some light in the dark. There's also power in all of the places where power doesn't exist. And there's weakness in places where all the power exists. There's some of something and some of everything else. And so as Lucio fights with his monster, fights with his intrusive thoughts, trying to get past the feelings tormenting and bombarding around the inside of him. They're not ricocheting like bowling balls fired out of a cannon. They're bouncing like super bounce balls. It's still annoying, but it's not actually doing any harm. It's just a present annoyance that he tries to tamp it down as small as it can be so that he can make this call. He opens his phone and begins dialing the number. He's pissed off that the phone starts dialing Faye. Even if the call went through to Faye wouldn't answer. She's a texter. Why won't? And then it dials his mother's work number, the last job she had about 6 years ago. And he moves to the phone and he dials Arsenio, and Ignacio answers. Yeah, hey, good to hear from you. Hello? You there?
I just want to make sure I heard you right. Ignacio answers?
Yep. Hello?
Who is this?
Hey, I can't hear you. Speak up.
Who is this?
Hello? You know
Hello?
what? Don't worry about it. Try calling back. Or better yet, just leaving your name, your number after the beep. Beep.
If Lucio could look any angrier than he already is, he would look like some Looney Tunes. He would look like someone straight out of the Looney Tunes with the expression on his face. If his blood actually did flow to his face, it would be a piping red right now.
And in that moment, your ever-present, nearly contained beast slips free. But it doesn't go bounding off like a dog that just loves to run. No, it oozes and creaks and slithers from you. The shadows from the sky around you, the shadows from the buildings, and the very paint used to paint the night sky seem to coalesce around you, around your phone, around you, wrapping in the cocoon of its deep, dark coolness in response to your growing emotional heat. And your phone, somehow in that moment, connects with Arsenio's phone. So, Castigli boy, what do you think? I told you, he wouldn't be there waiting for you. It's the reason why I decided to have you as my number 3. You don't have to say anything. I saw how you looked at the little dark chick. She's a good looker, that Hestia. But, for your sake, I had to show you that she's willing to sacrifice people that she cares about. Always has been. That's a Tremere thing. And your boy. Everyone says the La Sombra, the darker half to what Ventrue are. But you see that there's no loyalty there for you. Arsenio, I know you keep holding on. And the offer is still there. If you make contact with him and he's willing to offer a boon to buy you back, you're free. I'll stop keeping you young and strong, and we can put that burden on his plate. Hey, what's that crackling? You hear that electricity? Yeah, my phone's been acting up lately. And you hear Arsenio's voice for the first time in months. And then he hits the end call button on his phone. While you're wrapped in the warmth of your darkness. While your beast acts even in this moment and comforting you. Shielding you away from the world. Cutting you off from anything remotely warm.
At this point, Lucio's rage finally gets the better of him. And without even realizing it, he's already squeezing and probably crushing the phone in his hand.
If you were alive, your palm would have the scars of doing so. As it stands, the minor annoyance of the plastic and glass and several pieces of selenium and various other metals used to make the circuit board of that phone mean nothing. Normally you'd be so caught in the moment that this crack and crinkle of glass and metal and plastic would have been somewhat comforting, would have been somewhat cathartic. In this moment, with your rage and your beast being simpatico and working towards trying to soothe that anger, soothe you, protect you, insulate you, and all of that hate, you feel nothing except for the warmth of that hate, of that rage, of that need to hurt something.
And And in a further fit of frustration, he's just going to throw whatever is remaining of the phone at the wall with a yell of frustration. God fucking damn it! So, yeah, whatever was left of the phone is definitely broken by now.
Okay. And what's Lucio's passive strength?
3 dots.
And his potence?
3 dots.
Oh. You've never bothered to pay attention to what happens when you utilize who you are. Being dead, being past redemption of life, and all that good stuff. All of the things that, make kindred the monsters that they are. It's only as the plastic remnants, broken glass bits, and sundry metal parts left inside that phone smack against the side of the building with enough force that it sounds like 22s have gone off in quick succession. Somehow someone somewhere found a way to make a semi-automatic 22 pistol and fired it, emptied the entire 6-round clip in a matter of a second. That's what it sounds like when your phone bits and bobs and broken nothing smacks against the side of the shelter. It sounds like someone let off a 22 a quarter of a block from where you're standing. It sounds like an Uzi firing 22 shells out of a 22 pistol. You realize how strong you are. You realize how the disconnect when humans apply their strength isn't there for you any longer. Your body gives out before your strength does every single solitary time. Except for now, you are in fact dead. All of that strength comes pouring out of you when you put your mind absently or purposefully to a task.
So, after having just destroyed his phone, he's gonna calm down a little bit, realize what he's done, and just stare silently at the wreckage for a couple seconds before heading back inside.
Timing being what it is. Time being the thief of always and forever, stealing moments and adding value to things that we didn't realize had always been valuable. Not simply because of the scarcity of them or the absence of them. Entering into the office, you see Hestia over at the desk, a smear of vitae-tinged tears across a pad, a pen quivering in her hand. You see Miriam standing over Hestia's right shoulder, clearly having offered the tablet and pen. And to your right, as you walk into the office door, Lolly is sitting up on a chair as if she's seen a rat in an old 1950s or 1980s commercial where the person who saw the rat or the mouse will hop up on the chair, hop up on the counter, hop up on the table. That's the position that she's in. Her knees are tucked high and her hands are resting on them as you walk in.
What happened?
Rivers of blood, but it wasn't blood, it was lava. There was a guy with a machete and he attacked it and tried to kill Hestia.
Lucio looks with a lot of concern on his face over to Hestia to, as if confirm what she's saying, if it's literal or...
Miriam will just lightly shake her head.
he just left. And he was trying to convince me to throw Darnell and our newest employee under the bus. And at the time, I thought it might be smart to do so, but I can't go through with it. I realize how much of this is my fault, how many times I've compromised when I shouldn't have, and how much I've let things get out of control, and I can't let them take the fall. He offered me another way. He said he would accept boons to make the problems disappear. And I think that's what I'm going to have to do.
When she reveals this, does she look up towards Lucio?
Yeah, she's been looking up at him the whole time. Her face is just like wet and pink.
Now, food for thought. As Lucio looked towards Hestia initially when he walked in, and he looked towards Miriam, giving the response that while he wasn't speaking literally but figuratively, with that small shake of her head, Hestia's head was down. She was looking at the pad. But when she looked up and began speaking, her voice is pain-racked. There is clearly a wealth of emotion behind her words, yet her face, moistened though it is by the vitae-tinged tears, warm though it is with her voice and persona bleeding through, there is a disconcerting fact that her eyes are dead. And while you've seen her appear into the worlds around this one, those that abut and sometimes abuse this one, seeing the eyes of a dead person stare out of that face with all of that emotion, Lucio hasn't been dead long enough for that to not affect him. Hestia hasn't been dead long enough for that not to affect her. Seeing that juxtaposition between the emotion in her voice, the moistness of her cheeks, and those very real dead eyes staring through not just him, but the world and the worlds around them, is enough to make most armies quake in their boots. How does Lucio, Lolly, and Miriam deal with that?
Lucio will be momentarily taken aback, a little bit off-put by what he's seeing, but he will try to hide how bothered he is by this, and will try to continue the conversation with Hestia, asking, so then what will you do if you won't throw them under the bus?
He said the only other way to handle this specific problem would be to make the problem go away, and I'm assuming the problem is police detectives. I don't know how he would make the problems go away. I didn't ask. But
to be fair, he did mention that if the one is the property of another one of our kind, it can be taken care of that way. making him
I
temporarily
can't
inept.
I can't be absolutely sure. I have a feeling, and it seems like it would fit that all those times that he's been here, that he's shown up, and that every time we have a problem, it's always that fucking cop. But I'd have to taste his blood to find out whether or not it was correct or not that he belongs to somebody, and how the fuck am I supposed to get his blood?
Do we have one that can follow him?
You could just take it. I'm hungry.
Lolly, are you okay over there?
I'm fine. I'm perfectly fine. Are you okay over there?
No, but that's a story for another time.
This is what normal people do. They sit in chairs.
Miriam will chuckle and say, in a shocking turn of events, I feel like I'm the only one that hasn't seen a ghost tonight.
That's good.
Shocking turn of events.
Well, let's not jinx it, but, back to the... Back to the subject at hand.
We only have 48 hours. He said we only have 48 hours before they decided on a course of action and came to execute that. And I'm assuming that 48 hours started before they showed up here. They also took Darnell's phone. Somehow. I think it was one of the younger one was throwing a fucking fit.
They said they'd come back in the morning, too. That's a problem.
I guess I have something to add then. I just saw Arsenio, I believe, driving away in a car. I tried calling him, and when he answered, I overheard a conversation basically saying that I would have to offer a minor boon to get him back. So I'm guessing this might be Capone's bigger plan to get us all indebted to him. Are we willing to do this?
It's the easy way.
And somewhere deep inside Hestia, her angel of goodness and her demon of darkness are having a conversation with the angel saying, we will not trade lives, we will not sacrifice ourselves. And her better demon, why sacrifice ourselves or anyone else when we can just kill them all?
And oddly enough, as she's listening to the conversations going on around her, she's gone very quiet and still, and her head is kind of tilted because she's listening to the two of them have the conversation inside of her.
What if we could get the cops back here and separate them? Then you could take the old one's blood.
Just kind of blinks and looks at Lolly.
So what if we got the cops to come back here and we could separate the two so that you could take the older one's blood?
Or we could get them back here and they could disappear.
I'm not sure you'd want to do that here.
Or anywhere, killing cops is always bad business.
Are we sure?
Better to manipulate things to get them killed if you want to go that route, but you would have to carry that with you.
As looks at Lolly and raises an eyebrow.
It may seem facetious, but you could only shove so many pennies in a bag before that bag bursts, and it only takes that one penny.
You know what pennies kind of taste like, though? Blood.
Only the old ones.
Exactly. Exactly that.
Wild idea here. You said they have Donnell's phone, right?
Correct.
Can we try calling it? Maybe someone will answer and we can set up a meeting? Just a thought.
The thing is, they don't know that we know that they took it. But we could try calling it. See if they give themselves over or not. Then what would we say to get them here?
What if Lucio pretended to be the star now?
Miriam, would you please go ahead and roll your wits and either subterfuge or leadership?
Absolutely.
listening to the particulars of the information that you've been given through conversation, through direct communication, plus just hinted at in the incidentals of it all. There's a portion of you that very much is still your sire's childer. There's a portion of you that's still the child of your parents, and there's a portion of you that seeks to make beauty, and that comes in finding a way to make things connect. And art in and of itself is the practice of making shapes appear to be different shapes, boiling it down to its most simplistic state. And so pattern recognition and patterns and leaps of logic come a little easier, especially for someone who is inspired to take ownership, as well as inspired through life experiences to ever be the watcher. And in this, you have an unknown means of communication. You have the opportunity to square things away by paying a premium for it, a comfort tax for having it taken care of by someone else for you. And in all of his communication and all of his hinting and all of his direct related information, he never said he would make it happen. He kept hinting that as someone who is never supposed to exist as they exist. And being your mother's child, everybody has a boss, everybody has a manager, everyone has a contractor or an engineer that is all but their boss, even though they're the ones being paid. So there are two pictures forming in your head. The easy way, no muss, no fuss, and you all die for the day with it being in someone else's hands. Of course, they're still, if they don't move fast enough, then there is very much the hard way. And yet again, the idea of trading a life. Comes into play. Because that's what it would boil down to. Even if you all didn't end them, someone would. If you take the easy way or you take the hard way and do all the legwork yourself, it will come down to that officer's existence. And that's literally the only decision you have to make at this point, because no matter which way you slice it, their lives, that police officer's life, will come to an end, either actually and factually, or their owner, if they're owned by kindred, will have to do something with them, pull them out of the area, cause them to lose their career, or God knows what else. They can no longer be in the area. You all know that they're owned by another kindred, if you go that route. But if you get them to meet somewhere, who's to say that Hestia will not immediately eviscerate them in trying to get a little blood to find out if they are owned by someone? If you go that route. And if you go the easy route, at least you won't be there to see how the sausage is made. It'll be handled by something or someone else. So that's the decision that's there before the coterie right now. That's what's on the table. How do you take the life of an officer, of a police detective? How do you all want to do that?
Okay. So Miriam will look at each person in turn. Her friends, so to speak. All of this, whether we get his blood, find him in a back alley, or let Mr. Gabriel deal with him, all roads end with the detective's life or livelihood being forfeit.
Given more time, we could find the road that doesn't lead to Rome.
But do we have time?
No.
Well then, how are we doing this?
I hate to say this, but I can't trust myself that if I didn't try to just taste his blood and outright kill him as a problem. So I don't know if we can go that route because I can't trust myself. I guess it's going to have to be a boon. And as I'm the person that started this problem, caused this problem, the boon is probably going to fall mostly on my head. But he might ask for boons from the others as part of helping cover this up. So you have to let me know if you are willing to take on even a minor boon as part of this, with the majority of it falling on my head.
Miriam will shrug slightly. It's been a while since I've drawn blood. But I can probably still do it. Blood drive?
I would have to offer a boon to Mr. Capone anyway in order to get Arsenio back, so I am going to have to be fine with the boon if you decide to go that route, but if Miriam is willing to do the bloodletting, then that is a valid option for us.
I can make him just give you the blood.
Okay, well then, this has to be done tonight. We have to let him know what our plan is by tomorrow so that things can be taken care of, and we need to know all of our options. And if bloodletting is part of that, then it has to be done tonight. I think they were heading back to the police department, which it seems almost ludicrous to be heading to Police Central, attempting to get blood from a cop.
Couldn't you just call him and tell him that you've remembered something else? Ask him to come back?
You'd need a story, but they would come. They planned to come back in the morning anyway.
Tess picks up the office phone and dials Donnell's number.
There's something, words have meaning, and not just their defined understanding, they're implied, implicit, and it's almost the same for numbers. As you dial from the office phone, the landline, a very troubling thought occurs. No one keeps numbers in their head. No one has a phone book sitting next to their house phone. No one has a little black book stored away somewhere out of sight. All of the information is stored in the phone. The person's name, sometimes a picture. But rarely is the actual number there, unless of course you pay attention. It's always there, but no one sees it. They're looking at the name of the contact and the picture that's above it, whether they're in their top 5 or what have you. And so as you dial from the shelter line, you wonder what name, if any, Donnell has applied to the shelter. While less than 3 miles away at the police precinct, the older detective is sitting looking at the phone as it rings and rings, and it says, "My big fat wife. My big fat wife." And he finally answers, "I've got your husband's phone. Why are you calling this late?"
I hadn't thought that's where his phone went to, but here we are. It's good to speak to you, Detective.
We found it.
Thank you. I appreciate you finding property in my office.
Well, you can always stop by my office and pick it up. They'll be in the lost and found.
Or you could bring it back to me this evening.
No, I don't work for Instacart. Grace. But if there was perhaps some confession or something worthwhile that you'd like to say to me and my partner, I can perhaps take your statement now. Or if it is something that, if you're afraid of speaking over the phone lines, which I know some people are, everyone likes to text these days. You can text it if that'll make you feel better. But once my partner gets the mandated hours of rest, we'll be back there in the morning either way.
Well, this is necessary this evening.
Really? And what's so necessary? Has your opinion changed? Is there something you'd like to tell us?
You specifically, because I think you'll understand it much better. Your partner's fairly young and inexperienced.
Yes, but the only way to get experience is to do. So what is it that you'd like to tell just me?
Yeah, if I told you over the phone, that would ruin the surprise, now wouldn't it?
Oh, yes, no spoilers, but there's always a teaser trailer. There's always a bit of initial publicity to get someone's interest and their appetite whet. Unless, of course, it's not that important and you can wait till in the morning. After all, Even though we are awake at night, some of us really do live by day. And then there's some, like you, I suppose, that, well, live by night.
My memory's gotten a little better. I'm remembering some details you might want. It might help you make your case.
Miss Green. Miss Green, I would love to hear what you have to say. Unfortunately, my partner is resting, and there's a mandatory number of hours between being on duty that must elapse before we can return. Unless, of course, there's some definitive promise that I can hold you to. I don't see a reason to enter once more into your domain.
She carefully covers the mouthpiece and moves it away from her mouth enough and looks at the rest of them, knowing that they could probably hear a good amount of that, because she wasn't attempting to be quiet. And the phone on the desk has been turned up just for the longest. So she looks at the rest of them. With a brow raised, as in, what now?
Miriam will shrug and look at Lucio. You're the closest to a police officer we have?
Storyteller knowing what Lucio knows, is there anything that he could think of that might entice the officer to come over now?
Off the top of your head? Yeah. I will give you my confession, but I need to talk to just you. I know exactly who did what, and I have them in my office right now, but I'll only turn them over to you. You literally, when dealing with a police officer in this particular case, need to make it so that he gets an obvious bit of a claim. Because a lot of what the police do is not really figuring out why or how. It's who. And that who tells them all of that. There's no back engineering situation. It's a crime of passion. Okay, we got that. We've seen that 100,000 times before. But your story is what they want to hear. Why you did what you did. How you did what you did. In as simple and direct a manner as possible.
Lucille will go over to Hestia and ask, in a hushed tone, is this phone on speaker?
She shakes her head no, because it's not on speaker, it's just the volume's up.
The only way you're going to get him here right now is if you have something that will let him know right away who is responsible. In other words, either a confession or some definitive evidence that will prove who committed the crime, but you're only willing to turn it over to him. That's the only way you're getting him here tonight. Could be security footage, could be something, picture, written, confession, anything. That's the only way you're getting a man like him here tonight.
She nods and then uncovers the mouthpiece. I'm sorry for having kept you waiting, officer, but I overheard one of the clients at the shelter speaking, and I pulled him into my office. He's willing to turn himself in, but only to you.
So you got the person who did it in your office.
Now, if she says yes, it's not a lie because she's in her office.
And you're willing to help them confess.
Yes.
No more beating around the bush and an honest, respecting, and bit of hospitality. Because after all, at the end of the day, my dad, my old man, was a cop. And his old man before him was a cop. My grandmother was even one of the first women hired in the police department. So we have a lot of traditions in my family. All of my kith and kin hold them above everything else. So if I come back to the shelter and put myself in the mercy of your hospitality, you will ensure that I get what I came for.
You will have your guilty party. Yes.
Okay. I will be there shortly. Let's say within the next half hour. Click.
She places the phone onto the cradle. She looks at them both. Looks at them all. I don't quite trust him. Why does he need a half hour?
Because he could be bringing reinforcements.
Or if he's, as you suspect, he could be informing his patron.
Did you not hear all the language he was using? Domains, hospitality. Yeah, he knows more than a human should.
So maybe to ask him point blank without taking his blood. Can always make him forget that you asked.
I'm starting to wonder if his patron already knows the type of things he's been doing and is allowing him to do so. Because then if that is the case, then this is all moot to attempt to find out who his owner is and use that person against him.
Okay, it's a little later than usual, but let's take a quick 10 to 38 after. Let's be back at 48 hour, and then we'll head into our denouement. See you guys in about 10. All right, guys, everybody back?
I'm back.
Hoorah. And a minute early at that. Look at that. So, while we wait for everyone else to cover the minute time, questions, suggestions. Anyone have an idea?
Is it reasonable to assume that Arsenio hanging up on Lucio is because Arsenio doesn't want to go back to Lucio?
Truthfully, it is very understanding to have that viewpoint. Even as a kindred, self-recriminations and doubt would definitely creep in. Doesn't make it any truer, however.
I'm back.
And while I have the unenviable pleasure of having oversight, I keep track of their details. And one of the many details that Lucio forgot in the moment is while he remembers everyone's phone and has most people entered into his phone, it is in fact a new phone.
You mean the one that he destroyed?
Yes.
Yeah.
So Arsenio was not actually hanging up on Lucio where he was. He was ending a random call that comes through periodically, because even though he is now in fact moving into fully being Mr. Gabriel's ghoul, he still is loyal to and party to many of the same issues, though lesser, that Lucio has, until he is 100% Mr. Gabriel's man. So his technology doesn't work 100% the way that it should 100% of the time. So yeah, welcome back. When we last left, the decisions were made, the calls were made, and you all were discussing how or what it was that you all expect in the offing. And it very much is a consideration. You've all decided on a course of action. You decided as to what you will do to at least begin this course of action, but you haven't actually done it. Just because you decided things doesn't mean that you will do a thing. You all could leave, you could fly, you could hide in your haven and never speak to the officer. You could pick up and move. I hear that there are apartments very cheap and affordable in the south suburbs, or even in Gary, or up in Milwaukee, maybe just to the western suburbs. No one will expect you out in Joliet or Plainfield or any point due elsewhere. So in the grand scheme of things, with the meeting looming and hanging over you all, what is it that you want to do? What is it that you're going to do?
I think we need to prepare for hope that he comes alone, but prepare for the fact that he might not. What are we going to do if he brings back up?
We're going to need to separate him from the pack and figure out a way to placate him, or at least have you obtain some of his blood before sending him on his way. If he comes alone, well, detaining an officer is probably not the best idea, so I think the best course of action in either case is to just get the blood and then send him back on his way, preferably after altering his memories of the encounter and why he was here.
It's funny, as Lucio outlines the plan, highlighting that it's not a good idea to keep a police officer against their will for any period of time. The very real exchanges that he had with police officers that they kept in the very unhygienic haven for weeks until their names were broadcast through the local papers, for weeks until there were investigations as to why their vehicles were found in Lake Michigan, and for weeks the streets in an uproar. The last time they entertained actually doing business with, in one shape, fashion, or form, violently with the police officers, they made it difficult on the entirety of the north side of Chicago. The increased police presences and the rousting of gang members and the verbal assaults from police officers for known criminally affiliated and criminals in general, people with police records, so even if it was just speeding, became an issue. Their actions changed the tapestry as to how the police operated. Small little things like the buddy system always being in play. Small little things like the group and crew of 4 or 5 door kickers working together, rousting and otherwise harassing the public at large. Many of those things have fallen into less common use, but it is still very much part of the SOP to always be with a partner, to always move in a group. And when one fights, you all fight, thanks to the actions of the shelter. And the funny thing is, both Lolly and Miriam were in the city during that period. That increased police presence, the constantly needing to be double and triple sure in regards to gaining a victim for the evening. Even those that you had groomed properly so that they were part of your herd required extra work. And while it only lasted for about 3-4 months back in the dark days of 2020, it was still an inconvenience that they are not sure what started it or ended it. They know that the cops went missing, but they don't know the story behind it. They don't know that even though the cops went missing and they finally returned to duty and to retirement, it was a story that was everywhere, yet nowhere. It was almost as if the Kendra community was purposely trying to bury it while the human community were trying to turn it into their rallying cry.
There's also the fact that we need somewhat of bait, because he thinks I'm going to confess. We said we had somebody that had confessed. So even if it's a ruse just to get him here, we need at least some sort of red herring so it doesn't immediately look like a trap.
Maybe you want it to look like a trap. It says the jig is up. Maybe it inspires some honesty.
Is that what the voices are telling you, or is that just a guess? Guesses are bad right now. We need facts.
What makes you think I hear voices?
Because I hear them too, so I assume since we were seeing the same thing that one time that we both hear the voices.
Seeing things and hearing things are two different things.
Hess just lets her head drop as hard as it can on the desk and doesn't give a fuck.
This was built in the wanted year of 1908. It is a hard metal topped, it's a hard wood topped metal desk. It has survived fires, floods, blizzards, and several other weather phenomenon that killed hundreds. And it survived the opening, closing of this building in several different iterations. The moment the Hesh's desk head compounds against the desk, none of that matters because she drops her head with such force. There's a small dent that appears. If Ashley had been human, her nose would be broken, her brow would be misaligned, an orbital socket or maybe the entirety of a socket would be cracked. That force, even from that small distance, Hessia is stronger than she lets on in most nearly every occasion. And the desk, for the first time, meets an immovable object that it cannot survive past. And as she rests there in the divot created by her forehead and nose, several things align in thought. Namely, baiting the hook is always good, but at the end of the day, you've all invited someone who may know more than they let on to a place where you all should be masters of the house. You all are part of this domain. You all are part of this community. In fact, you're the pillars of Amalia being able to do what she does for the poor and indigent that call this place home. You are the pillar and support for Donnell being able to empower Amalia, and for Donnell being able to empower Sebastian. Too early for that, for being able to provide strength and support for even someone such immediately instinctually odious as Selma, for him to able to provide employment for whoever this mysterious Javier that no one's called, for him to continue, for Celia to come during the day and the early evenings to administer to them. There's a world, an ecosystem dependent on you all. And once more, while not putting them purposefully in harm's way, you are inviting the wolves inside the gate. Danger is a constant in any city, and especially in Chicago. It requires being wary, being aware, never making yourself the victim. That's someone else's job, and it is no way possible in the fabric of the DNA of the city that anyone would ever do someone else's jobs for free. So you have the situation as well in hand as you can. There's always another step. There's always another idea. There's always another way to continue moving forward. Because at the end of the night, that's what you all wish. You want to continue on this promise of immortality, and that requires paying Caesar his due. Sacrificing a little bit so that you don't have to sacrifice a lot. And as those thoughts materialize and metastasize inside each of these kindreds' heads, hearts, and the core of their souls, we cut away as the detective steps out of the precinct. And instead of moving to his unmarked that he and his partner have assigned, he moves to his personal vehicle. He gets in, the phone in hand, sitting in the middle console. He takes out another phone. And he looks at it for a second, and he opens it. And he speaks into the phone. I'm on my way back. My partner's out for the night. What would you like me to do to them? And as the voice on the other end of the line begins speaking, we watch as the detective starts the car, and we pull our mind's eye back, watching as the shelter, coterie, bolster their defenses as best as they can, starting with themselves, starting with their hearts and their minds, and realizing what lays ahead of them. There's a fork in the road that goes several different directions, and it starts with what happens in a few moments from now. And on that note, thank you for a lovely session. I will see you all next time. It has been my enviable pleasure to share you all. Good night, everybody.
Good night, everyone.